when you first come to Thailand, if you come on a holiday and if you go out with the lads or something like that, and you go to the bars and you have a good time and you party and you get chatting to some girls, maybe you'll meet some women, maybe you'll take them home or whatever. And then you end up going back. It's what happens to a lot of guys. They end up going back and they think, man, do you know what? I love Thailand. It's the best place in the world.
Every fucking person in this place fancies me.
This is an experience that a lot of people go through when they come here. And it's understandable, right? Because when you get here, everything's cheap. Well, it's a lot cheaper than where you're from. So you come here with a stacked bank account, right? It feels like you're playing with Monopoly money. You get a bill, you say, oh, that's nothing compared to back home. Everything's a comparison to back home. That's way less than it would be back home. This is less than it would be back home. You get an attention that you didn't receive back home, probably. When you go out, like women are vying for you and not the other way around, which is something you're probably not very used to. And ultimately, it feels like you've hacked life, right? You've got all this freedom, you've got all this money, and so you just want more and more of it. So essentially what you do is you say, right, I'm going to move to Thailand. That's going to be my plan. Now, bearing in mind, you have a limited understanding of Thailand, okay? If you come to this country and that's all you've seen, and that was your holiday experience, you don't really know what Thailand is or anything about it, okay? But you go back anyway and you say, I'm going to move to Thailand. So maybe you go online, maybe you join my online community. If you haven't already, there'll be a link in the description. You get some advice, you get some help, and then you eventually move out here. Now, if you come to Thailand based off of that previous experience and you continue to go out and do those types of things, you can't separate the two. You can't say, oh, well, I now live here, because if you do that, you go, well, I live here, but I can't do what I did on the holiday. So then what ends up happening is you don't know what to do, right? So what a lot of people do is they won't do much. They'll explore, but then once they've explored the city or wherever they're living, that starts to wear off. And they say, okay, well, I'm just going to go out every so often. And eventually what happens is that starts to build into a pattern. And people go out more and more and more. And undoubtedly, that's because that is the nature of alcohol. Okay, when you're going to these nightlife venues, everything is centered around alcohol, right? So the more and more you drink, the more consistently you drink, the more and more you're going to be pulled to that environment. And then what tends to happen is the country itself, Thailand, the place you've just moved to, the place that you spent so long trying to get to, becomes uninteresting. The only thing that seems to be interesting is that nightlife scene, and everything becomes a process of like, how can I manage this nightlife scene whilst living in this country, right? These guys, they wake up late in the afternoon. They pretty much spend the afternoon just dilly-dallying and not really doing much, telling themselves they're doing a lot when they're not. But essentially all they're waiting for is the evening to come, right? They go straight back to the same establishments. They speak to the same women. And they sit on the same bar stool, having the same conversations night after night, completely burning through all of their money. And this is honestly a really, really sad place to be in, because you are surrounded by people. You're still in Thailand, but you don't really have the freedom that you thought you were going to have, right? You don't have that sense of adventure. You don't have that sense of new, right? And what happens to a lot of these guys is they end up living right next to the nightlife areas. They spend all of their time in the nightlife areas, and this basically becomes like a prison, right? They think it's great, they think it's fun, but then over time, that's all they know. They lose interest in Thailand, they lose interest in learning the language, they lose interest in the culture, they lose interest in exploring. Not only that, but once they're spending all their money, they're not having any money to go and do all of those things. And so they just sit stuck in the same routine. Like I say, it's like a literal prison. I've seen this happen time and time again in Thailand. And I think the reason it happens is because Thailand, because it has no guardrails, right? Because things are cheap, because there isn't anybody telling you what to do, because it's a lot more freer than places like where you might be from. Essentially, you're just let loose. And what it will do is, if you combine that sense of freedom with alcohol and with, dopamine and with perhaps sex addiction and stuff like that, and attention from women that you're not used to, essentially it will start to reveal who you are. Okay. So if you come, this is not going to apply to everyone. If you're a very disciplined person already back in your home country, and I've met a lot of disciplined people, a lot of good, solid people that moved here, what tends to happen to those guys is they become more disciplined, right? So if, for example, you're very focused, you're not really interested in partying, drinking, or any of that stuff, and you want to build like an online business, and you come here, it'll amplify that and you'll get a lot done. Okay. That's kind of the position I was in when I first moved here. That was my mindset and my mentality. If you're an avid hiker, if you like to go off exploring, if you like to ride motorcycles, and if you love nature and you already do that in your home country, then those types of people come here and they do that more, and they absolutely love it, and they never want to leave, and they have a great old time. They join hiking clubs, motorbike clubs, whatever. Okay. But if you're a person who in the past has had dependencies on alcohol, if you have insecurities in like your self-worth, and you feel like you don't get attention from women or something like that, or if you're generally an irresponsible and erratic, spontaneous person who does crazy shit in your home country, and you come here, then Thailand is going to amplify that by 1,000. This is a very, very sad place to be in, because if you don't have any structure to your life, if you don't have anything that you're interested in, and that's the key, if you're going to come to live in Thailand, you have to have something that you're interested in, something that can take up a large chunk of your time, that you're passionate about, right? Whether that's hiking, whether that's building your online business, whatever it might be, there has to be something that takes precedent over the going out, the socializing, and the good times. Okay. And it has to take precedence in the sense that the dopamine that you get from doing it, the satisfaction and fulfillment that you get from doing it, is greater than that you get when you go out and get drunk and party. If not, what happens, and what I've seen happen to so many people here, is they kind of fall into like life gets pressed, like pulls gets pressed on their life. Okay. They can come here at 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, fall into that pattern, fall into that routine, and their life is on hold. Nothing ever changes. They don't progress in any way. If anything, they only deteriorate. And what we'll often see, and you'll see this is very, very common in Thailand, people, especially irresponsible people, or people that, like I say, have low self-worth or something like that, they essentially become like man children, right? You'll see 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old guys that go out to these nightlife areas, feel like they're 21 again, and remain stuck there. They are basically an old man trapped in a young man's body. And it's sad. It's kind of pathetic, really, because, that is not purpose, right? You need to live your life with purpose. And Thailand is such a great place to give you that sense of purpose, right? The pressure is off. It isn't as expensive to live here. You have time to explore hobbies, interests, opportunities. You have time to explore all of that. And you have this gift, essentially. You've been given this gift to be able to come to a place where it doesn't really cost you very much to live. Your savings can go really far. And for the first time in your life, you have free time. And if you fill that free time with excessive drinking, excessive partying, and all the other stuff that comes with it, eventually what tends to happen, what will happen is that will lead to, depression, substance abuse, which is very, very common in Thailand, primarily alcohol among foreigners, and maybe even worse, right? Maybe death, right? I've known several people in Thailand, and this is why I'm making this video, and this is why I'm telling you this, guys, because I have personally known several foreigners in Thailand. I came here 11 years ago, right? And I met some great people when I got here who weren't in this state, right? Some of them are dead. Some of them are dead from falling into this pattern and into this routine. So this is eventually how it can turn out. Okay. That is not what you set out to do when you first moved here. That is not making the most of the opportunity that you've been afforded when you got here. And it's a fucking shame, really. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and you shouldn't enjoy yourself and you shouldn't just isolate yourself in your room. Okay. You can go out in moderation. Okay. And if you're somebody who can't moderate, then you can't go out at all, obviously, but a lot of people can moderate. But what it's all about is creating a balancing act with different things, right? And having boundaries in place that stop you from doing, having X that stops you from doing Y, basically. For example, if you're somebody that's drawn to that kind of lifestyle and you know that you're like not that disciplined, the first thing you can do is not live around it or live amongst it, okay? Do not move to somewhere like Pattaya, okay? Where the whole city is just that. It's just nightlife and parties and women. That's the whole place, pretty much. So if you're that type of person, don't live in Pattaya. And if you're going to live somewhere else, like in Bangkok or Chiang Mai or Phuket, don't live near the nightlife areas. Live far enough so that it becomes an inconvenience to get there, okay? The second thing you can do is, I've already mentioned this, but have something to do, have interests. And this you really need to self-reflect on as well. Have something else that interests you. And that should be Thailand, right? It blows my mind how many people that I've spoken to in bars over the years who, when the topic comes up and you start to talk about Thailand, the language, the history, the culture, the places, the geography, when you talk to them about any of these things, they are completely uninterested. They don't care about any of it. They just sit there completely brain dead, obsessed with the little area that they're drinking in and who they're dating next week and this drama that happened over here and this drama that happened over there, right? They're not pursuing any type of online business. They don't have any routine. They don't go to the gym. They don't have any responsibilities. They don't do anything, right? So have an interest, have some responsibilities, have a routine. Get up, go to the gym, have a purpose to get up in the morning. If you don't have a purpose in life, if you don't have anything to do, then create something, right? Start an online business, right? Learn how to make extra money online. Go out, volunteer for a charity. You know, there's lots of, I was just speaking to a woman yesterday at the end of my street who worked for a dog charity. It's great, right? There's lots of charities in Thailand you can get involved in that give you a sense of purpose so that you can say, well, every day I wake up at 8 a.m. and I go and do X, Y, and Z, right? Once you have those things in place, that will form a different routine, a different habit. You'll meet different people in a different way and you'll meet nicer people and better people and all the rest of it. The third thing I would say is take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror, okay? If you come to Thailand and if you find yourself being drawn into those environments, being drawn into that behavior on a very regular basis, then you need to ask yourself, why? Okay? What is it about me that I get pulled into this where other people don't? And it may not necessarily be because you're an alcoholic or you have an alcohol problem. It could be something like just attention, right? If you go to these bars and women show you attention, but you don't get attention where you're from, maybe you're craving that, maybe lacking that, maybe that's something to do with your self-worth or something like that, okay? But take a look at yourself and if you can, try it and address the root cause, okay? Like I said, this is not a bad thing if this happens to you, but it's only a bad thing if you just let it carry on, right? It can be a learning experience.